Do you know what oxymorons are? After watching this video, you might realize you've been using them without knowing that you are. You'll discover some really interesting oxymorons with examples of how to use them in sentences. Do keep watching, but first, please subscribe to The English Nut on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you. An oxymoron is a figure of speech in which two words or phrases with opposite or seemingly opposite meanings are used together. It's a combination of contradictory words such as cruel kindness. For example, you could say, "It was cruel kindness to euthanize the ailing dog." The word oxymoron has two plural forms. One is oxymorons and the other is oxymora. Here are some oxymora for you to ponder. Jumbo means big. Shrimp refers to a prawn, which is a small crustacean. So what is this contradictory big small seafood? It's simple really. A jumbo shrimp is a prawn that is bigger than average. I'd like the jumbo shrimp, please. Old is the opposite of new, but when we use old and new together as old news, we refer to news we've heard before. The minister caught taking a bribe is old news. Even and odd as applied to numbers may be opposites, but in this oxymoron, odds is used to mean chances. So even odds means that the chances of success and failure are equal. It refers to a 50-50 chance of something happening. There are even odds that her horse will win the race. Pretty is not used here in the sense of beautiful, but to mean fairly. So pretty ugly means fairly ugly. Some people think pugs are pretty ugly, but others find them cute. One meaning of civil is polite, civilized behavior, quite the opposite of war. But another meaning of civil is something that relates to the citizens of a country. Thus, a civil war refers to a war between the citizens of a country. The civil war in Sri Lanka lasted for over a quarter of a century. A fortune is a large sum of money, and so is a small fortune. I don't know why it's described as small, but it sometimes is. You'll have to spend a small fortune on repairing your car. Growing big sounds logical, but growing small, isn't that counterintuitive? Yet we are so used to hearing it, it makes perfect sense. His shirt seemed to be growing small with every wash. Wine is wet, right? It's a liquid after all. But wine which contains little or no residual sugar is called dry wine. Sounds contradictory on the face of it, right? She asked the sommelier to recommend a dry wine. A sommelier is a wine waiter or steward. Mail usually refers to written communication. In contrast, you use your voice to communicate over the telephone. But then somebody decided to call the system of leaving a spoken message on the phone voicemail. He broke the news to her on a voicemail. An industrial zone is all concrete and smokestacks. A park, on the other hand, has trees, flowers, and grass. So what's an industrial park? A designated zone where people can build their factories. It's also called an industrial estate. In order to attract more investment, the government proposed a new industrial park on the outskirts of the city. If you're naked, you're not wearing anything. There are no half measures to it, yet we say someone is half naked when the person is partially clothed. The half-naked models paraded on the ramp. If it's a secret, it's hidden from most people. So how can it be open? Well, the term is used to refer to something that's meant to be a secret, but many people have found out about it. It's an open secret that he's having an affair with his colleague. A sight is something that's seen. So what does sight unseen mean? It means to have not looked at something beforehand. He accepted her marriage proposal sight unseen. When you are working on a document or piece of writing, you keep making drafts of it till you're completely satisfied, at which point you have the final document or article. A draft means something that is still rough, but people use final draft to refer to a completed document or other piece of writing. This is the final draft of my script. Something that does not have an order to it is described as random, yet people like to use the phrase random order. The teacher seems to be picking the students in random order to answer the questions. A cruel dictator is called a despot. Benevolent means well-meaning and kindly. So how can you put the two together? Well, people like to describe dictators who treat their citizens reasonably well as benevolent despots. Chandragupta Maurya is considered by some historians to be a benevolent despot. This is a single word oxymoron. You're either a bride or a groom. How can you be both? Well, groom is actually a shortened form of bridegroom. Both words have the same meaning. The bridegroom got stuck in a traffic jam and almost missed his own wedding. You're either being natural or acting. How can you act naturally? Well, when you do something wrong and you don't want others to realize that you're guilty, you might want to act naturally, though you don't feel normal inside. I didn't want my parents to know that I broke the jam jar, so I tried to act naturally when they got home. So that was my list of oxymorons. Now let's briefly look at oxymorons in literature. Of course, Shakespeare holds the record, having used 13 oxymorons one after the other in Romeo and Juliet. Here is what Romeo says. "O brawling love, O loving hate, O anything of nothing first create, O heavy lightness, serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep that is not what it is. This love feel I that feel no love in this." Loving hate, anything of nothing, heavy lightness, feather of lead, sick health, and so on. All oxymora. Parting is such sweet sorrow is another famous oxymoron from the same play. Poet Alfred Lord Tennyson uses a few of them in Idylls of the King. His honor rooted in dishonor stood, and faith unfaithful kept him falsely true. Sometimes a single word can be an oxymoron, like bridegroom, which I mentioned earlier. The words bittersweet, firewater, and spendthrift are other examples. Bittersweet means something sweet with a bitter aftertaste. Firewater is a strong alcoholic drink, one that probably burns your throat as you drink it. A spendthrift is someone who spends money extravagantly, yet thrift means spending money carefully. The word oxymoron is itself an oxymoron too. It is derived from the Greek word oxus, meaning sharp, keen, pointed, and moros, meaning dull, stupid, foolish. So the literal meaning of the word is sharp, dull, keenly stupid, or pointedly foolish. Good grief! We've covered a lot of oxymorons in this video, and good grief itself is obviously an oxymoron as well. If you know any other oxymorons, do write them in the comments section. I'm the English Nut. Bye for now.